Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we are going to be looking at Alolan Ninetales. It's an archetype that a handful of very prominent players have been taking to League Cups recently and seeing some success. There's a very good article on Sunwain's PC where Israel Sosa talks about Ninetales, as well as we've seen players like Michael Pramor and Azul Garcia have been taking this to recent League Cups and performing with the deck. And when you see top players playing the same deck, you know that there is a reason to be looking at it and a reason to consider it a top tier contender. So one of the things you'll notice straight off the bat is that there's no Potown in my list, and this is a big discussion point on Ninetales right now. Do we or don't we go for this Potown approach? I've currently not got it in my list, but I'll go into my decision-making process in a moment around that. So yeah, Ninetales has now really maneuvered itself into becoming one of the best spread decks around. Because we have its sniping attack in combination with Koko, we can be very dangerous at setting up things for Espeon EX to devolve multiple things. There are plenty of decks out there right now trying to rely on Espeon EX as the win condition. So things like Guardy, things like Metagross, even other evolutions like Stage 1s can fall prey to an Espeon EX, and it looks like Ninetales naturally fits the role quite nicely because you're already wanting to play Kokos, you're already wanting to play Ninetales, so why not just stick in one Espeon and see how it goes? And that's pretty much the concept here. We are also naturally, through our own typing, good against the main non-evolution deck, which is going to be the likes of Ho-Oh, Salazzle and Volcanion. Having both lightning and water weaknesses means you're pretty good against the basic stuff, and with the devolve combo that we play, we in theory should be decent against the evolution stuff. So really covering all bases is what we're trying to do with Ninetales and remain a fairly simplistic deck along the way and be consistent with a nice Octillery engine in here to finish out our late games as well. So all round, it's a very nice package. I think we've seen Ninetales do well even back at the start of the season in Liverpool. It really proved itself to be a top contender, and it's good to see it sort of find a home with a few new cards, a few tweaks to the deck to make it competitive at the top tables once again. So let's start off with the Pokemon, going in with Alolan Vulpix, one of the best basic Pokemon that we have in the game currently. It's found a home in the likes of Metagross and the likes of Gardevoir and other setup decks just because this beacon attack is so strong. So having 4 Vulpix in the deck is going to really improve our own consistency because we can get this off quite often. It allows us to search the deck for 2 Pokemon, reveal them and put them into the hand. Obviously your opponent is likely to end this away whenever they have the option, but even doing that can freshen up your hand, which is not the worst case scenario for you. And whenever it does come off, you're going to start finding your evolution pieces, get yourself into Octillery to stabilize your draw engine as well. So Vulpix is very nice for helping you out in the early turns and making sure that we can be consistent, which is something we always want in a deck. Let's have a look at the 3-1 split of Alolan Ninetales now. First of all, the GX, 210 HP isn't perfect, but it's a decent amount. And it has 3 attacks, the first of which is Ice Blade, the one that I mentioned earlier that is able to access the opponent's bench because we are able to deal 50 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. It can be the active or it can be the bench, so take your pick wherever is best. When you've done a few Koko spreads with Flying Flip, you can target down 60 and 70 HP basic Pokemon. Think about Trubbishes, Wimpods, Beldums, what's it called? Ralts, all sorts of evolution Pokemon, even other Vulpix. So this 50, not quite a perfect number, but when you've done a Flying Flip in the early turns, which when we play 3 Tapu Koko, we often do get him active and often get him flipping early. You can then follow up with Ice Blade and start taking easy prizes, pinging around the board with a Ninetales just with a single DCE, and that's very good for you. It also has the GX attack for just a double colorless. This is one of the reasons why it's so cute to have Ninetales in the active taking these early prizes with Ice Blade, because if the opponent has to hit into you with their main attackers, you can simply use your GX attack, moving all damage counters from this Pokemon to your opponent's active. So if your opponent can't take a one-hit KO against Alolan Ninetales GX, they have to be very careful with how they do approach you in terms of attacking. Oftentimes it slows them down. They have to do small prods here and there. And when they're prodding you, you can just continue to Ice Blade and take easy prizes or set up Pokemon for the Devolve approach. So very, very nice combination of GX and first attack here. And its second attack is also very strong. It is Blizzard Edge, which deals 160 damage for 2 water and a colorless, and you discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. Bear in mind it says 2 of any energy, so a double colorless can be removed to fulfill the cost of both, which is very good. And we have Aqua Patch in the deck as well, which can recover water energy from our discard pile, so we sometimes can chain Blizzard Edge as well in this deck, which is very good for you. And when we have things like Choice Band, and personally I'm playing Professor Kukui, we can get to 210, and we know that 210 is a golden number. There's Ninetales GX mirrors that we have to be concerned about. There's also Galissapod, which is a big Pokemon that has 190, so sorry, 210. So having the Kukui in there helps us reach those numbers, which is pretty cool. So yeah, Blizzard Edge, very nice. And even if you can't hit Kukui, you can do early spreads with Koko. It's something we naturally try to aim for anyway. So yeah, Blizzard Edge, pretty good attack. Then we are going to play the non-GX Alolan Ninetales, 110 HP, a little bit less. Has this ability Luminous Barrier, which is the main reason we play the card, preventing all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon GX or Pokemon EX. This is a very awkward ability for a handful of archetypes. It's going to be a saving grace against the likes of Vikavolt, Tapu Bulu, because typically they are forced to bring out their Vikavolt, and it's much easier for you to win a longer game situation if their Vikavolts are being dealt with. Also, they can use things like Oranguru at times if they play it, but they have to find these one or two of things, and oftentimes, again, when our approach is going to be slowing down the game, and sometimes going for a Devolve approach, not necessarily against Vikabulu, but against other archetypes in general, forcing your opponent to find these awkward answers, the one of Gallade and Guardy, the other one of cards that people use to get around Ninetales, the non-GX and non-EX cards, forces turns and forces commitment from them, and all these sorts of things are good for you because a lot of the time we're buying time to set up damage with Koko, set up damage with this Aurora Beam as well, which deals 80 for 1 water and 2 colorless. It's a decent chunk. When you have Choice Band, you're two-shotting pretty much any EX or GX, and forcing your opponent to Guzma around you is going to be nice as well. Because basically if they're using Guzma, they're not using N, and they're not using their power draw supporters like Sycamore, and oftentimes they have a half-baked approach because they're trying to keep up prize-wise by dealing with Pokemon that isn't the Ninetales in the active. So it just forces a difference in game state, and when you put this down at the right times, it can really bail you out of bad spots. Also, it's a very big card against Metagross because they are forced into using Metangs, which is also very bad for them because they essentially sack Metangs, which is part of their Metagross line, and they need to have as many Metagross as possible to really combat you during the game, but they can't because you have Alolan Ninetales that you can even recover with Rescue Stretcher. So very good one of that helps out a few matchups specifically, and in general, just in the right spots in the board, you can affect the game to a great extent as well. So it's a good one of. Be aware that you can recover this with Stretcher in the right moments and really steal games from opponents based on their resources. Then we are going to play 3 Tapu Kokos. I've mentioned it a lot. It's a free retreater, which is always lovely. It has that 110 HP as a basic, very nice, and Flying Flip is the reason he is in the deck, because he does 20 to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Very nice, setting up damage for the Devolve combo. Pretty much, we just want to be spamming Flying Flips as much as possible. While he's in the active, our Aqua Patches are all live for our benched Ninetales as well. So we are setting up our main attackers whilst getting nice early damage on things. Even if you're not going for the Devolve combo, putting like 2 spreads on Ralts and Curliers then gives you time to Choice Band KO with Blizzard Edge. So every turn you can get a Flying Flip is better. That's why we have such a high count. I think it's even more important to have a high count when I'm not playing Potown. Potentially you can get away with a 2 count if you do play Potown. But for now I'm happy with just starting it as much as possible and having access to it early game, which is very important for his role in the deck really, which is setting up early damage when otherwise we would just be passing turns or using Beacon if we have to. But having the option for both of these two of the strongest attacks in the early game really from basic Pokemon that we have access to, having the option to use both on the first turn of the game is going to be really strong for you. Next up we have a 2-2 line of Octillery. Going to use the Stadium discarding Remoraid if that's important. I mean, Potown's probably the one we're most scared of against things like Garbodor, but it's rare that you'll actually use a Remoraid to get rid of it. That's one of the reasons why I'm playing double Blower. Slightly higher count than most Ninetales players. I'm going to go for the double Octillery. Abyssal Hand, such a strong ability to fall back on. Because of the nature of Alolan Ninetales, it discards energy from itself in order to reload and really finish a game, especially if you go down to 1 or 2 prizes. If you get hit with an N, you're probably not going to win the game because you would need something like DCE Guzma, and that's a pretty neat combo that you have to hit all at once. Whereas now, if you get N'd by your opponent, you still have Octillery to fall back on, and hopefully then you can Abyssal Hand into many more cards to give you the options to hopefully win the game there. So just securing your hand is going to be really nice for the longevity of the game. And when we have Beacon as well in the early turns, we can establish this fairly early on, which is very cool. And we have double Blower to remove tools from Garbodor, so we can get usage out of this a lot of times, which is very good for us. 2 Tapu Lele, Wonder Tag, obviously integral. Because we are playing Octillery, our bench fills up, so I don't feel like we need to play more than 2. A lot of the times you've seen me recently going up to 3 and 4 counts, but I'm happy enough with just the 2 count because our bench is normally full of Kokos, Ninetales, and Octillery instead. So just a couple to get your early Brigette more than anything else and get a specific supporter here and there, but we don't need to go crazy on Tapu Lele in this list. And finally, 1 Espeon EX. I've mentioned the Devolve approach plenty of times, and it is basically just through this attack that we are able to take all that damage that we've placed around the board and really capitalize on it with its single energy attack, which is very cool. Onto the items, pretty simple stuff. 1 Rescue Stretcher, going to be nice for recovering maybe Octillery pieces, maybe the Alolan Ninetales if it's the right situation, maybe it's the Espeon EX if you didn't want to put it down on the board but know that you'll need it later. The stretch is going to help you out. Double Field Blower, we're not hugely ability focused, but as I said, trying to close out the game often requires Octillery support. So getting rid of Floatstones on Garbotoxin Garbs is going to be important, and Garbotoxin is very prevalent right now. Additionally, I think for Garbodor specifically, which is probably going to raise in popularity after the Bremen results where there was 2 in top 4, you're going to want to get rid of Potowns because Potown gets you down to 180, which gets you in Drampa range. So having a couple of Field Blowers gives you time to hopefully get rid of them and put your Ninetales down when there's not a Potown in play, so you can tank hits. So that's pretty nice. Forces them to do like a Righteous Edge poke or something like that. And if you're using your Aqua Patches effectively, you shouldn't have DCs on your Ninetales. You should only be discarding them with Blizzard Edge or using them on your Kokos early and stuff. So it helps you play around Drampa much better by having the 2 count, I feel. Gonna play 4 Aqua Patch, giving you the energy acceleration that is much needed in this deck because we basically sacrifice DCs with our Kokos in the early turns and we sacrifice energy via Blizzard Edge as well. So these Aqua Patches are going to be important for making sure that we have enough energy to continue attacking with our GXs in particular. Then we are going to have 4 Ultra Ball, obvious consistency cards. The 1 Brigette, again, pretty obvious, going for your Vulpix, your Remoraid, sometimes a Koko if necessary. Then we are going to play 2 Professor Kukui. This is the big reason why I'm choosing not to play Potown, going for a supporter approach instead. Kukui really benefits you when you can do 60 damage on turn 2 with an Ice Blade. That's one thing that I really like doing. It's good against like random things, like even Greninja it's pretty important against, for getting like the turn 2 knockout and such. It's just really nice in general that you can one-hit KO like Glissopods, because if you are playing the Potown approach, just like us, how we attempt to get around it by field blowing on the right turns, if a Glissopod does that on the right turns, then you're straight back at square one where you can't beat the Glissopod loop. So sure, you could play 4 Potowns, but that's a lot of spaces that you have to commit. Instead, I'm just going to go for 2 Kukuis and try and ramp over 1 or 2 Glissopods throughout the game, and then deal with a Lele or deal with other Pokemon early on. So with double Kukui, double Koko, I feel very content that we can hit big enough numbers to make one-hit KOs possible, even on things that we couldn't typically reach. So for now, I'm choosing Kukui over Potown. I know Potown's kind of more insta-play, but at the same time, there's a lot of skill to Potown, because you need to know when it's important to put it down in terms of hindering yourself, as well as hindering your opponent, and timing is always kind of risky because your opponent could just have the Field Blower at the right times and really mess up your own plans. So Kukui is the card I've gone for in a 2 count. We're then going to play 3 Guzma, making sure we can access the bench is going to be nice. We have so much sniping that I think 3 is a correct count. You can go for 4. I feel like it's kind of greedy. The deck kind of wants more spaces. I ended up cutting this for a blower instead, so I'm pretty happy with that. Just 3 Sycamore because I've squeezed in 2 Kukui for specific numbers, but if you're not sold on Kukui or you feel like you could get away with just the 1 count, you can go back to 4 Sycamore. He is very good for getting rid of extra water energies for Aqua Patches, but bear in mind there's so much Garbodor running around still that I'm kind of conscious and concerned about how many Sycamores we play just to get rid of too many items and get us into a spot that we don't want to be in, because as soon as Ninetales starts getting pressured by single prize Garbodors, it gets way, way scary for you. It's really difficult to win the game at that point because it's just not efficient for you to be sinking Blizzard Edges into single prize Pokemon. So yeah, just a 3 Sycamore I feel confident with because we're going to stick with the 4 N as well. I think N is stronger on our side because we are often a progressive deck, setting up damage all over the board, going for devolve approaches. Sometimes we will be losing prizes in the early turns, even if we have to spend them beaconing. And really, because we have Octillery to fall back on, we're not too scared about ending ourselves to a low hand size. We can always top ourselves back up and hopefully disrupt the opponent in the process. And as I said, I'm preferring this as a higher count to Sycamore, just because of Garbodor's prevalence right now in the meta. I think it's a reasonable choice. 2 Floatstone is going to help us move out of anything in the active, so we can get Flying Flips or Beacons off in the early turns. And in general, Octillery is chunky. It's not even bad putting on a Ninetales if you're trying to spam different Blizzard Edges. Maybe you've patched a couple of times to your bench Ninetales and you want to move active. This can always be helpful. And 4 Choice Band, very important for dealing with Salazzle when you put them on Kokos, which is excellent. It's also very nice to hit that 190, which then pushes to 210 with Kukui, or just in general going to 170, 180 HP, even 190 HP, basic EX and GXs. We can one-hit KO with the Blizzard Edge, so that is very cool. Even setting up Ice Blades to do 80 is really nice, because then it's oftentimes a devolve away from being knocked out. So Choice Band as a very high count, because it is integral for making sure we can get one-hit KOs, and setting up perfect numbers for us, which is great. And finally, just 12 energy. I think this is the base mark that pretty much everyone has landed on. 4 of them being DCs, so important for Koko and Ninetales, and even Lele. And then 8 water that we can recycle with Aqua Patch. Overall, very nice stuff. So, I've mentioned it a lot. Po-Town is the big card that is of contention, really. I think there's pretty much a divide between players. Some people swear by Po-Town in Ninetales, some people won't play it because it can be detrimental at times. It just depends what matchups you're expecting. I think if there's going to be plenty of Drampagarb, I'd be scared of playing Po-Town, not only because they play it, it makes it way harder for you to remove it in theory, but it punishes you so hard and it gives you no help against them. Also, I guess if you're expecting like Salazzle, you shouldn't play this card. It's only really if you're expecting tons of Guardian Metagross, which, you know, they could be. So Po-Town is fairly reasonable, but right now I'm happier with a Kukui, especially because Kukui draws cards, whereas Po-Town just sort of sits there dead. I know it can be an insta-play card for your Octillery, and contesting the Stadium War is nice, yada yada yada, but overall I'm not a huge fan of Po-Town, just because there is anti-synergy within the deck, which isn't great. Vest is another card that I've seen a couple of League Cup players using, and it's a pretty cool idea. Reducing damage done by any Pokemon that has special energy by 40. Helps out again against Guardy, most importantly, so it's going to be very difficult for them to deal with Alolan Ninetales. It's even pretty cool on the regular Ninetales. It means you can tank hits from Gallades if they have to use DCE. They can, of course, Secret Spring attach, but it's a little bit more difficult for them to get there, so Vest could be nice. I think a lot of decks are playing double Field Blower. I think Guardy's playing double. I know my list would be, just because of the amount of Garbodor, so I think a passive tool like this, now that we have tool removal, is a lot less valuable. Acerola is a supporter that I've greatly considered. I've seen this in a few lists. Even if it is just a 1 count, It can be a game changer at times when, I've already mentioned, we like sitting around just throwing damage all over the board with our 50 snipes. Sometimes you can just Acerola, send up a new Vulpix, gain yourself a full turn essentially without using your GX attack. So Acerola could be a game winner at times for giving you these extra little pokes here and there around the board, which could help you out a lot later on in the game. A couple of Pokemon which could be cool. Tapu Fini, again, it's one that's finding its way into more and more decks. This is a water style deck, so it makes sense that you could get this Tapu Storm off very often, and even Hydro Shot can do 120 to any of your opponent's Pokemon, which helps out. When you do these snipes anyway, he can be a nice way to end the game, and because we have Aqua Patch, he's actually fairly efficient to get going, so a reasonable one of. I've not gone for him right now because I really like the Ice Path GX. But there will be matchups where Ice Path is useless. I think, again, like Vikabulu, if you think that's going to be quite popular, it's really nice to have Tapu Fini in the list because Ice Path is useless. They will one-hit KO you with their Choice Banders, Choice Banded Bulus, so it's a pretty much dead GX attack. And instead, you can have a live GX attack, which gusts up a Vikavolt back into the deck. So if you expect Vikabulu, maybe Fini is your card of choice. Another one that I actually quite like is Jirachi promo. Stardusting away special energies off of things like Drampa and even off of Gardevoirs. You can hit for weakness. You can hit them for 80 in fact, which is really helpful for the Devolve combo, and it slows them down turns, and it just stops a big Guardy from tearing through your entire board. It really sets them back turns, which is nice. Even good against Gliscopod Garb, to be honest, because they play like 8 specials. Stardust is becoming more relevant. I think there might be E-Hammers sneaking back into the deck list as well, after we saw Gliscopod and Drampa do so well recently. So Jirachi, in similar vein, could be a useful single copy in the deck for just frustrating some of these special energy reliant decks. So yeah, that's going to be it for card choices, but for now, let's get into, oops, gotta make sure we're in standard, and let's have some games with this deck. It's typically known for being like kind of 50-50-ish, but we sort of have to navigate the matchup based on what we're up against, so hopefully this should be entertaining. So, let's get it on. We have a nice little Vulpix start. We have Ultra Ball. We can discard energy as well. This looks all very good. Let's put down the Remoraid just because we're going second. And we see a Fini from our opponent. Doesn't necessarily give away a lot. There's a lot of decks playing Tapu Fini right now. Wow, just a pass. That's pretty bad, huh? Okay. Let's get rid of these. We have Brigette, so we'll definitely go for it and then just finish on a beacon. Sounds pretty good to me. Prize 2 Sycamores. Prize 1 DCE. Prized 1 energy. We've prized an Octillery. And what's our last prize? Let's try and figure it out. Am I blind? Maybe I'm blind. Huh. Oh well. What was it? I can't remember. Nothing huge, I don't think. Probably fine. I think a second Remoraid is safest because we don't actually have a supporter, and he could come up with something that could KO it. It's so unlikely though. Like, he's not going to Tapu Storm away a Remoraid, right? Actually, we don't need that. We don't need that at all. We could beacon for it if I want to feel super safe. We can just do this. We'll grab that just to be safe, I guess. Oh, so bad. It's one less draw. Let's just grab all three. Ninetales. Could have a triple Ninetales turn next turn. Seems good. No attachment, but we don't really mind that. Especially because our opponent literally just passed. Wow, nothing again? No way. So in theory we could win this turn. That would be fun. Let's get a fresh 5. Huh. We're not far from winning this turn, huh? Kukui first? No, I shouldn't be Kukui first. I should Ultra Ball first. I mean, we can improve our draws by 1 if we take a card, but it hurts Octillery draws later. I think we won't. Not the dream. I mean, we put ourselves in energy away if I do this, but it just makes the Tapu Storm much worse, so I think we can spread our threats around. There's an E-Hammer. Okay. Grass Energy, so it looks like it's Gliscopod. Yeah, definitely Gliscopod. Playing 2 E-Hammers pretty cool. A little bit techie, but whatever works for you. There's a Wimpod and a Trubbish. 5 items gone. Six, 7. It's a lot of items. So, if we Guzma this Wimpod, he can't do a first impression, which is pretty good for us. We'll snipe Trubbish. The only way you could get a first impression this turn is with Guzma. You'd have to Guzma, then evolve, attach, then find a floatstone for his Trubbish. It's a lot to ask for. It's like a 4-card combo in his hand. There's a floatstone to the Feeny. There is going to be the Guzma. Had the 4-card combo in the 5-card hand. Sure. Sure. That's fine. Okay. We're using a lot of items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think Devolve is not our path. If we had our second Lele, that would be pretty sweet. I mean, we don't have the choice band anyway, but... we're just going to go for a flying flip here. Don't want to end, because their hand size is 2. So, we'll hopefully limit their options. They have a physical switch, which means they can get a first impression off again. It's rare that Glisspod play physical switch cards, but there you go. Keeping up in the prizes, in fact going ahead. But if we find Choice Band here, or Kukui off the top, we're going to be in good shape. So, 3 Choice Bands in the deck. Let's see if we can get one off of our ends. No help there. It's a little bit sad. So we'll just Ice Blade this Wimpod. We have the Kukui for next turn. A Fini GX attack wouldn't be so horrible. I wouldn't like it, but it wouldn't be the worst. Gonna see an Ultra Ball from our opponent. Finding another Wimpod. And they have Tapu Lele as well. Can use that Wonder Tag. Grabbing an N. Have a Float Stone for the active, and they're going to play the N. They DC the Glisspod, so they are going to go for the GX attack, it looks like. Oh no, they're just going to go for Armor Press. Okay. We'll follow suit with an N here. I want to try and establish this Octillery. No rescue stretcher, so no luck there. Remember, one of them's prized. Looks like we're going for Ice Blade, Ice Path. Yeah, it's not great, but against Glisspod, it's never like... it's always just on a turn where you can't do stuff that you go for the Ice Path. See if they can get an Acerola off this turn. Trubbish is scary. It's a high priority threat with the amount of items we've used. 160 currently. How many choice bands they've used? Only one. One field blower's gone. Let's see if they have Acerola. It's definitely what they would be going for if they had it in hand. One has been played, so still plenty in there, I would imagine. No, just going to be the crossing cut, it looks like. Ooh, feeding me Trubbish indicates that their hand isn't great. So we'll go for Guzma here. Picking up the choice band means we can actually just hit the 80 with Ice Blade. It's going to be nice. I don't think we'll have time to set up another thingy, so we'll just do this. Go down to 2 prizes. Only real concern right now is going to be if he can get a Trash Launch up and get like a Field Blower. Okay, here comes the Trubbish. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 160. Goes to 200 with the Blower, and Choice Band gets him there. We can respond it with our 1 Ninetales, but then he's in range with other stuff. We are going to see the Guzma. So very defensive play from our opponent. Very defensive play. So, I think dealing with the Trubbish sounds like a good plan. Even if it does sack a prize. We don't want Stretcher or N at this point. We don't want the Koko at this point. Guzma energy could still be game. Actually, no energy required. We just need to hit the 80, right? Yeah, we got there. Nice. Not bad. Pretty sure the Glisspod missed a couple of things there. But it was all fine. Kukui never came in too clutch. But, sure. We got some crazy setup there. Alright, let's get another game in. By the end, we had 4 Ninetales on the board and Octillery. Not too shabby. A fighting deck. Fighting not too prevalent in standard. Wonder what this is going to be. Lycanroc's definitely a hard matchup. Maybe we go for a devolve approach though. We'll see. Okay, we get the benefit of a mulligan. Wow, okay. It's going to be a clunky deck. It's going to be Rhyperior Garb, huh? Well then. They're likely to play hammers and stuff, right? Let's just do this. Okay, they don't get up to much, but we can start flipping. Doing the 40, thanks to Kukui. Forces him to move out of Rhyhorn. Or evolve, of course. There is a Trash Launch Garb. DC, oh my god, he can attack me. And he chooses to. Incredible. Kukui randomly doing things. Great news. Numbers are numbers. No items played. Let's see, Choice Band, Heavy Ball. Guzma trying to slow me down. Let's just return the favor. I want to get attachments on better Pokemon. Don't want to spend the water on a Remoraid, even with Aqua Patch. Let's just Flying Flip. We're not under any pressure to do anything, so... So, the only pressure this puts on is that he could Acid Spray, so it's probably in our best interest to actually get a Ninetales this turn. Be careful about item usage, but I like all the other items in our hand, to be honest. Just get rid of double trouble. Finish off this Garbodor. I mean, I don't know what deck we're up against, to be honest. But hey. Incredible. We beat a stage 1 and 2 deck. In all seriousness, Garbodor is hard for us. So... like a full non-EX Garbodor build is actually something I would be scared to play against. But the opponent just had nothing. So let's have one more game against Mihawk Ben. Looks like it's a metal deck, so it could well be Metagross. And against Metagross, we need to spread him up and hopefully make him spend some max potions and such. Ooh, leading Lele is so bad for us. It's low odds as well when we only play 2 and we play so many other basics. It's really bad for our Tom and Brigette because it really clogs up what we're trying to achieve here. Looks like they have an opening Brigette as well. And an energy in the discard pile. All good news for him. There's Brigette. And we're going to see lots of Beldum, maybe a Vulpix. Yep. And it's over to us. We've prized baby Alolan. No. No. Why, game? Oh, that's so cruel. Ah. Well, baby Alolan is definitely what we need. Got to work towards that, you know. I need to see what else is prized. At least we have Stretcher, so when we find it, we can reuse it. Ah, game. I really want to find a Koko. I guess we just find a Koko before the Vulpix. Do we just go double Koko? Nah, that's fine. We need to hope to find Floatstone DC next turn. What fun. Okay, so they can retreat and beacon. Oh, they can do much more than that. They've got a Sycamore. Choosing to get rid of a Metagross and an N and a Guzma. They definitely could have just end or just done nothing. Whatever. Sure. Beacon away. I guess they want to run into more energies. Okay, well that's step one. We could also draw into Guzma. This is fine. Can't go to this. It's not likely that we hit our 2 float stones, so I guess we just pass. I want to keep my stretcher for Alolan Ninetales. I mean, I could do it for 2 targets, but it's unlikely that we hit 2 energy, a float stone anyway. It's just unlikely. But we're going to see more aggressive Sycamoring. I wonder how many Metagross he's actually going to choose to evolve into. And how many Metangs he has access to. Okay. Okay, let's start flipping around. Metagross number 2, Metang number 3. Having a second GX on our board as well is so bad. Leaving that Lele hurts in for so many reasons. So if they find an energy to attach, they can do double Geotech and attack us this turn. If not, we're in a bit better shape. We have a Guzma, which could definitely slow them down, but a beacon is exactly what we want to see. Getting themselves a Delmise. So we'll wait on the Guzma for when he commits energy with Geotex, then we'll try and Guzma something fat up. That's the play. For now, let's keep spreading. If they evolve into the next Metagross, I wish we could punish them, but we can't. It's so sad. Okay. They manually attach to move. Here comes Metagross. I wonder if he can develop out of this Beldum. Okay, well, that's the answer. Getting rid of a max potion is way better for our Guzma play as well. Because if we Guzma up this, then he could just max potion this and put the Geotech systems back on. So this is maybe better for us that he had to spend a max potion on this guy. Like I said, keeping this stretch around is going to be important later on. Let's try and get some draws in. only have one DC, so I think I'm attaching here. Flipping has got to be the play. Please, Alolan Ninetales. Rip. 60, 90. This is on 60. It's on 20. You can see a Guzma back from them. Okay. So 2 Guzmas down from them. It's good to see them Guzmaing. I don't know why they didn't just take out a GX there. They definitely should have. Weird. Very weird. Okay, they do choose just to drop the hammer on our head. Okay. Do I need more Tapu Kokos at this point? I think I want to play this card, get rid of choice bands, because he can just start taking out leles now, and this makes it harder, especially if he's commit one other on board already. Patch certainly gets played. I mean, he's at 190. Is it that crazy just to Ninetales KO? It is crazy, right? I could devolve 2, take 2 prizes. It's fairly premature, but then he's left with 1. We're close. We're definitely not far away. Maybe we don't need to recycle the... Maybe Koko's are good enough recycle. We'll certainly be seeing some max potions next turn, maybe even a Tapu Cure. Oh, let us punish him. Come on. Come on. Any other game. Any other game. We could punish him so super hard. Oh, man, that's insane. He sees a Vulpix. He sees 2 energy and he just... Oh, come on. Come on now. That's just absurd. Never punished springs to mind. Genius play. For some reason they opt to Geotech. Well, we can take 1 more prize on a Beldum. Choice band's better when I'm hitting Metagross. Let's pray. Very good. When you can't punish the greed. Ah, Christ. Like, what can his board do as soon as we get one? Oh my god. So sad, man. So sad. Hmm. This is a pickle. If we can hit our other field blower, we could still be fine. Could do some tanking. Lele. Do I need any of these cards? I'll still have ends later. I want to hit field blower here. Okay. Get rid of this. Maybe tank a hit with Lele. He's only played one max potion so far. Floatstone. It's rare to see Floatstone in Metagross lists. It's also rare to see Delmise in Metagross lists. There's Guzma number 3. Finally deciding to go for Vulpix. Does he have enough energy to set up another one? So he has to go back into the damage dude anyway. Oh, is he going to use Anchor Shot? That'd be pretty dope. Holy. The plays. Devolve is obviously what we want to do this turn. Let's hope. Nice. We still have Guzma, so we don't have to worry about Anchor Shot, as long as we can draw into a Guzma off this, or next turn off it. Okay. Well, it's all we got, so... We're actually a Guzma away from game on his Lele if he doesn't heal it. And doesn't play N, obviously. Wow, he actually won. That's insane. That's incredible. Man. I mean, yes, they only found one max potion that game, but we were also super unlucky that we couldn't have our main approach, which is Baby Alolan. So, yeah, nice. That was a pretty weird way to win, but we found a way. So that'll be it for Alolan Ninetales. It's a very interesting archetype that seems to have answers to just about everything out there. I think Xerneas Break would be the hardest matchup, which is quite funny. This isn't me just trying to make you play Ninetales so I can keep playing Xerneas Break. I genuinely think Ninetales is good. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about the list and the archetype and all that other good stuff. We beat a Metagross without any Potowns in there, and even without an Alolan Luminous Barrier Ninetales as well, which is pretty nuts. So there you go, guys. Let me know what you think about the list and everything else down below. And please leave a like to the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already. For now, though, it has been Joe from OmniPoke, and I'll be seeing you guys next time. Cheers.